Today we're focusing on the microbial world, which is the smallest, but arguably the most important players in marine ecosystems. Microbes include viruses, bacteria, archaea, and microscopic algae, as well as protozoans. They're everywhere in the ocean, from the surface waters bathed in the sunlight to the deepest hydrothermal vents. Even though they're invisible to the naked eye, they account for most of the biomass in the sea and drive the processes that support larger organisms. They produce oxygen, recycle nutrients, and form the foundation of the food web. So while we often think of whales, sharks, and corals when we picture marine biology, the real engine of the ocean life is actually microscopic. Let's start with viruses. Viruses are not considered living in the traditional sense because they cannot reproduce or carry out their own metabolism. Instead, they depend completely on a host cell. Their structure is very simple. It usually consists of a core of genetic material, either DNA or RNA, wrapped in a protective coat called a capsid. That's it. Despite its simplicity, they can vary in shape, size, from rod-like to many-sided geometric forms. This small package allows them to invade host cells, take over the cellular machinery, and force the cell to produce more viruses. Without a host, a virus is inert. Basically, just a packet of instructions waiting for a cell to hijack. There are several kinds of marine viruses that play a key role in the ocean. Retroviruses carry RNA as their genetic material, which can reverse transcribe into DNA once inside of a host. HIV is a well-known example on land, but there are many marine versions as well. Lysogenic viruses have a clear strategy. Instead of immediately destroying the host, they slip their DNA into the host genome and wait, sometimes for long periods, before switching into a destructive phase. Then there are bacteriophages, viruses that are specifically attack bacteria. In the marine world, bacteriophages are especially important because they keep bacterial populations in check and influence nutrient cycling. In the ocean, viruses are everywhere. There are millions in just a drop of seawater. They infect everything from bacteria to plankton to fish and whales. When a virus kills its host cell through a process called lysis, the cell bursts and releases the contents into the surrounding water. This material is called dissolved organic matter, or DOM. Other microbes immediately use DOM as food, so viral infections actually fuel the microbial loop, the recycling of nutrients within the ocean. In other words, viruses may seem destructive, but they help keep the system balanced by constantly releasing nutrients back into circulation. Now let's move on to the prokaryotes, the bacteria and the archaea. Unlike eukaryotic cells, prokaryotes don't have a nucleus. Their DNA is typically stored in a single circular chromosome, and most have a rigid cell wall for protection. These are simple cells, but do not let the simplicity fool you. Prokaryotes are masters of adaptation. They have an incredible range of metabolic abilities, meaning they can extract energy from light, from chemicals, or from organic matter. This metabolic diversity explains why prokaryotes are found everywhere in the ocean, from the shallow coastal zones to the deep sea trenches. They are the true workhorses of the microbial life in the sea. Archaea are the most oldest form of life on Earth. Fossils suggest that they were present over 3.8 billion years ago, meaning they've been around since the earliest days of the planet. What makes archaea remarkable is their ability to thrive in environments where most organisms couldn't survive. Some species tolerate extreme salinity, while others withstand boiling temperatures, and some can even survive complete desiccation or drying out. In the ocean, they're often found in extreme habitats like hydrothermal vents, where superheated water gushes from the seafloor, and in salt flats, where salinity would kill most life. Because of their resilience, archaea are sometimes called extremophiles, though many also live in more ordinary marine ecosystems. Their metabolic versatility makes them essential in global nutrient cycles, particularly involving nitrogen and sulfur. Bacteria are even more diverse and widespread than archaea. They come in a wide range of shapes, usually spiral, spheres, rods, or even unusual ring shapes. Most are tiny, invisible without a microscope, but a few species can actually be surprisingly large. Their cell walls are semi-rigid but still permeable, allowing nutrients and waste to pass through. Like archaea, bacteria are found throughout the ocean, from the water column to sediments in the seafloor. They are among the most abundant organisms on the planet, and their roles are varied as they form. In fact, some scientists estimate that there are more bacterial cells in the ocean than stars in the observable universe. Of the most important job of marine bacteria is breaking down organic material. When organisms die, bacteria decompose their remains, producing small particles of organic material called detritus. Detritus serves as food for countless small animals, making bacteria central for the recycling of nutrients. Some bacteria are photosynthetic. Cyanobacteria are especially important in this role. Cyanobacteria are thought to have played a key role in producing Earth's first oxygen billions of years ago, and today they continue to make critical primary producers in the marine environment. Another interesting contribution are the stromatolites. These are layered mounts of calcium carbonate formed by cyanobacteria. These structures are among the oldest evidence of life on Earth and still form in certain marine environments today. Both archaea and bacteria show an incredible variety of metabolic strategies. Some carry out photosynthesis, deriving energy from the sunlight, much like plants and algae do. Others are chemosynthetic, meaning they obtain energy from oxidizing chemical compounds. This is especially important for hydrothermal vents, where no sunlight penetrates. Many others are heterotrophs, relying on organic material for energy through respiration, much like animals. This metabolic diversity allows prokaryotes to occupy virtually every ecological niche in the ocean. Whether it's the sunlit surface waters, oxygen-poor sediments, or superheated vent systems, bacteria and archaea have adapted to thrive. Moving now from the prokaryotes to the eukaryotic microbes. Diatoms are photosynthetic algae and are among the most important primary producers on Earth. They account for a massive portion of oxygen we breathe and form the base of many marine food chains. Diatoms are usually golden brown due to their unique photosynthetic pigments, which include chlorophylls A and C, along with carotenoids. Their most distinctive feature is their shell, often called a frustule, which is made of silica or glass. Under the microscope, these frustules are beautifully ornate and highly patterned. Most diatoms are solitary and unicellular, though many form colonies. They are especially abundant in plankton communities, where they convert sunlight and nutrients into energy and fuel higher trophic levels. Diatoms are incredibly abundant. Of the roughly 12,000 species that are known of, about half are marine, and most live in plankton drifting in the water column. One fascinating feature is how they store excess energy as oil rather than starch. This oil is not only act as a reservoir, but also helps them stay buoyant, keeping them in the light-rich surface waters where photosynthesis is possible. Their frustules have tiny pores that allow for gas and nutrient exchange. Some species even produce a toxin called domoic acid. This compound can accumulate in filter-feeding animals like shellfish, and when larger organisms, including humans, consume those shellfish, it can actually cause serious injury or even death. So while diatoms are critical for life, they can also have dangerous side effects under certain conditions. Diatoms mainly reproduce by asexual division. In this process, one diatom cell divides into two, with each new cell inheriting one half of the frustule. The catch is that each time this happens, one of the two new frustules is slightly smaller than the parent. Over many generations, the population of diatoms gets progressively smaller. To reset their size, diatoms either undergo sexual reproduction or shed their frustule altogether and build a brand new one, full-size shell. This unique reproductive cycle makes diatoms fascinating organisms to study, as it blends both asexual efficiency with the occasional reset through sexual reproduction. Next, we come to the dinoflagellates. Most species are marine and many are photosynthetic, but they also display an interesting variety of lifestyles. Some can actually ingest food particles, so they blur the line between plants and animals. Dinoflagellates are armored with plates of cellulose that give their characteristic shapes. They move using two whip-like flagella that sit on grooves along their bodies, allowing them to spin and dart through the water. Another remarkable trait is that some species are bioluminescent, When disturbed, they can emit beautiful blue-green glow, making their surface of the ocean sparkle at night, a phenomenon many of you may have seen along the coast. One of the most important types of dinoflagellates are zooxanthellae. Their microscopic algae live in symbiosis with corals, some sea anemones, and even certain sponges. The relationship is so tight that many corals cannot survive without them. The zooxanthellae carry out photosynthesis and provide their hosts with sugars, while the corals often use them for protection and access to light. This partnership is what makes coral reefs possible. When corals lose their zooxanthellae due to stress, like rising sea temperatures, they undergo coral bleaching, which can lead to reef collapse if stress continues. So tiny dinoflagellates play a role in building and maintaining some of the most diverse ecosystems on Earth. Diatoms and dinoflagellates can sometimes grow explosively when conditions are right, especially when nutrients in the water are abundant. These population explosions are known as algal blooms. While they can be natural events, human activities like nutrient runoff from agriculture often make them worse. Blooms can block light from reaching other organisms, depleting oxygen in the water, and in some cases produce toxins. These harmful algal blooms can cause massive fish kills, contaminate shellfish, and disrupt entire food webs. So while diatoms and dinoflagellates are essential players in the marine ecosystems, under the wrong circumstances they can create real problems for ocean health and for us as well. Some dinoflagellates are particularly notorious for forming what is called red tides. During these events, their populations explode so massively that the water itself can turn a reddish or brownish color. Not all red tides are toxic, but some species release powerful toxins that can devastate marine life. One example is Physaria, a dinoflagellate that produces dangerous chemicals capable of killing fish in large numbers. These toxins can also accumulate in shellfish, and if humans eat contaminated seafoods, these cause neurological symptoms. Red tides are not only ecological problems, but they're also economic ones, since they can shut down fisheries and harm coastal communities. It's a reminder of how small microbes can have outstanding effects on the entire ecosystem. Beyond diatoms and dinoflagellates, there are other forms of photosynthetic protists in the ocean. Silicoflagellates have star-shaped skeletons made up of silica with two flagella in different lengths to help them move. Coccolithophorids are another group, recognized by their ornate shells built from calcium carbonate plates. These coccoliths, when they die, can sink and contribute to sediment that eventually forms chalk deposits. We're talking about formations like the White Cliffs of Dover in England. So even though these organisms are microscopic, over time and they literally shape the geology of our planet. Not all protists are photosynthetic. Some, like foraminifera, often just called forams, are heterotrophs, meaning they feed on other organisms. Forams build their beautiful shells made of calcium carbonate, and they extend their tiny projections of their cytoplasm called pseudopods through pores in their shells. These pseudopods help them capture tiny prey like phytoplankton. Forams play an important role in the marine carbon cycle because when they die, their calcium carbonate shells sink to the floor, adding to the sediments that may eventually form limestone. In coral reef systems, their shells can contribute to the sandy beaches and reef structures we see. Radiolarians are another group of heterotrophic protists. They are planktonic, mostly microscopic, and have elegant skeletons made of silica. Like forams, they use pseudopods extending to their tiny pores to trap food particles. Radiolarians are especially significant in the open ocean, where their skeletons accumulate in as siliceous ooze on the seafloor after they die. Over millions of years, this ooze can form thick geological layers. So just like coccolithophorids and forams, radiolarians show us how even the tiniest organisms leave massive footprints on Earth's history. Ciliates are another diverse group of marine protozoans. Instead of pseudopods, they move and feed using tiny hair-like structures called cilia, which beat in coordinated waves. Most ciliates live in single cells, though some can build protective shells out of organic debris. While some ciliates attach to hard surfaces, many are planktonic, floating in the water column. They are voracious feeders, grazing on bacteria and small plankton, and in turn, they become food for large zooplankton. This makes them an important link in the microbial food web, connecting the smallest producers to higher level consumers. Finally, let's look at the marine fungi. Unlike the other groups we've discussed, fungi are not photosynthetic. They're eukaryotic and most multicellular, though many marine species are microscopic. Instead of making their own food, fungi are heterotrophic, meaning they absorb nutrients from organic matter. In the ocean, at least 1,500 species of fungi have been described, though that number is likely much higher. They don't usually grab as much attention as diatoms or dinoflagellates, but they quietly perform important roles in the ecosystem. Marine fungi act as decomposers, similar to bacteria breaking down dead organic matter into detritus that fuels the food web. They also form partnerships with other organisms. For example, some fungi live in symbiosis with cyanobacteria to create lichen. On rocky shores, you'll often find marine lichen in the splash zones where waves crash and conditions are harsh. These partnerships allow both organisms to survive in places they couldn't alone. So while fungi might not produce oxygen or glow in the dark, they are key recyclers in the ocean and part of the foundation that keeps marine ecosystems functioning.